Hi, welcome to the next video of Unit 5 on unit rates. Yay! This is actually where it gets really interesting because we are going to do a project about unit rates and about like all this crazy stuff in Unit 5, and this is the beginning of that madness. And I'm really excited because it's like a 4-day project that you're going to have to do, and I'm not going, well, I'm going to do it too, because if you don't know this, every project that you do, I actually do also, because I think they're kind of fun. And also I want to make sure that it doesn't mess up, which happens half the time. But we won't talk about that. Okay. First question about unit rates is, well, what's a rate? A rate is this: a ratio that compares two quantities measured in different units. What? Yeah, no, seriously, it's about comparing two different things. One thing that you might compare quite often is when you're driving. You might say, well, I went 90 miles per 3 hours. And you might not, like, in the real world, you're not going to say per, so why don't you say in 3 hours? But that's a rate. That's you saying, I went 90 miles in 3 hours. That's a rate. That's you expressing 90 miles and comparing it to, well, I did 90 miles in 3 hours. Another way of comparing that might have been, I drove 90 miles with 2 gallons of gas. Which means you're driving like a hybrid, which is cool, because I actually hate hybrids. I just don't like the Priuses, it's honest. They look weird and I don't like that. I can't look out the window. Beside the point. But it's comparing things like that, that's a rate. So it doesn't even have to be money or time, which usually they are. But it could be, I can bake 5 cakes with 3 cups of flour and stuff like that. So we will get more into that later. We have another rate that, like, let's say you're baking and you make 39 cookies in 5 minutes. That's a rate. You're comparing cookies and minutes. How do they interact? Well, I can make 39 in 5 minutes. Sick. Bake me some cookies or tamales. I love cooking and food. I need to ride my bike more often, I decided after Christmas, just to let you know. Moving on. So those are rates, which I'm going to have you practice a little bit with the sentence, but that's actually not the main part. The main part is unit rates. That's what the whole section's about. So, and we've actually used unit rates a little bit in a previous video on the distance equation, where if you remember, we compared time and distance. Well, you don't actually say I drove 90 miles in 3 hours like you could. But you could also say I was driving 30 miles per hour. Per hour, you don't say per 1 hour, but it's a unit. Unit means 1. I drove 30 miles per hour. That's your speed. Maybe you drink 7 bottles of water every day. That's a unit rate also. So those are the main things that we're trying to think about. And I know, like, in the book it might be written a little bit differently for how this is done. I'm okay with a little bit of variation. We'll talk more about it, and if you're not sure, you can ask me. Because I know in science, they're going to ask you to drive miles per hour. Miles is MI, not to be confused. You don't want to use M, because M is meter, and we're going to be doing that a lot. We'll be doing that later in this unit. So MI is mile, H is hour, and there you go. So those are unit rates. So the idea is if I give you a regular rate, you need to change it to a unit rate. And literally we've got 2 examples. We'll do number 1 since you didn't read that bottom one, of course. Example number 1. Mr. Flores can run 60 miles in 4 hours. How many miles can he run in 1 hour? So now I'm asking, what's his unit rate? Well, if he can do 60 miles in 4 hours, we're trying to figure out 1 mile. So literally, this is how you do it. You put 60 miles, and we're going over 4 hours. So that's what we know. So, hey, that looks just like the ratios thing that we did in the other video, Mr. V. I know, that's why we're only doing 2 examples, because it's the same thing. What can I divide top and bottom by? I definitely know I can divide 60 by 4. or 60 by 2, because it's even. But I'm going to even go for the gusto and say, but I'm pretty sure I can divide 60 by 4, because 60 divided by 2 is 30, and I can divide 30 by 2 also. So instead of dividing by 2 twice, I'm just going to go for the gusto, and I'm going to divide by 4. And whatever I do on the bottom, I got to do on the top, or whatever I do on the top, I got to, yes, absolutely. 4 divided by 4 is 1. That's what we want. We want 1 hour in the denominator. That's what we want. Okay, 60 divided by 4. Well, here, let's just do a little division real quick. 6 goes into 4 once, or 4 goes into 6 once. Minus 4 is 20, bring down to 0. And 4 goes into 20, hey, 5 times. And that's a 0 now. Perfect, 15 miles. So, looking at this, I know Mr. Flores can run 15 miles per 1 hour. But I don't want to leave it like that. I'm going to write it like this. 15 miles, 15, because 15 divided by 1 is 15. That's why it's a unit rate. That's why it's so awesome. So I don't need a denominator. It's 15. And I could write it shorthand with mi per hour. But you know me, I am a huge fan of complete sentences, and that means nothing to me. What does that mean? The question was, how many miles can Mr. Flores run in 1 hour? Oh, why don't I use the question in the answer and then part of the, like, that's a great method in writing out an answer. In whatever the question was, include a little bit of that in what the question was. So this story is about Mr. Flores. Can run 15 miles in don't put an, it's just a in an hour. I want the complete sentence. I've got to have a complete sentence, because now it totally makes sense. This by itself means nothing. It doesn't. I don't know what that means. The question was asking how many miles can Mr. Flores run. This doesn't mention Mr. Flores. Write a sentence. It's a great idea to write a sentence. It's also a great idea not to make me mad and make me yell at you, because I will. Just do it. Write a sentence, or I'll make you redo everything. Because, yeah, you know I'll do that to you, because I've done it before. I'll make you do all 15 problems again. All right, example number 2. 2 examples. This is it. Miss Enlow can read 49 books in 7 days. How many books can she read in 1 day? Okay. Well, I'm going to set it up exactly like I did before. 49 books. Word dyslexia strikes again. Divided by 7 days. So now I've written a ratio, because this is a rate. This is a rate. Now I'm going to simplify the top and bottom. 49 and 7. What can I divide it by? By the way, do that divide part first. Don't put the equals underneath that, because that looks tacky. That's why I erased it, because I thought it looked tacky. So don't do that, because it looks bad. 49 divided by 7 is 7. Books. Divided by, well, 7 divided by 7 is 1. And that's the main thing. We want a 1 down there. 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 cake. Whatever. You want a 1 down there. Because, hey, look, 7 divided by 1 is just 7. And I'm going to put books per, that's what that slash means, is per day. 7 books per day. But that's not enough. I want a complete sentence. Mrs. Enlow can write, color in, read, my bad. I didn't know what the verb was. I want that verb. Read 7 books. And if you want to write 7 out with S-E-V-E-N, great, go for it. Per day. That's literally this whole section. Make it a fraction, simplify it, make it look kind of fancy, and then write a sentence. That's it. That is the whole thing. Just make sure that this equals a 1 down there. See, both of them have a 1. Yeah, that because it's a unit rate. Like, read it. It says a rate whose second quantity is 1. That's a unit rate. And that's the main thing. And that's it. That's unit rates. So, enjoy your day. See you next time.